Welcome, friends and enemies, to the Castlecast. I'm your host, Kevin in Hell, and I will be your guide into and through the void that is dark ambient and Dungeon Synth music. Today, I'm here just to give you a brief introduction about me and my background, as well as explain the goals and expectations that I have for this channel. First of all, I would like to thank you for taking this journey with me, and let me be the first to welcome you to the lair where I will be recording these episodes. It might be a bit of a slow start, but I intend to get to the point where I can make a few of these videos a week, and hopefully with your support we can grow and evolve this channel into something really cool. You just gotta bear with me while I sort out all the technical side of things. So, a little bit about myself. I have been obsessed with music for as long as I can remember. I started playing music in the mid-90s, and around that same time I was reading lots of fantasy and science fiction novels, and eventually got into metal. I started playing guitar and bass with friends around town, making bands, and I've pretty much been doing the same thing ever since. I've also always loved movie scores, things like Blade Runner, Halloween, and the animated Lord of the Rings movie by Ralph Bakshi. In the 10th grade, I got my first hit of Dungeon Synth when a friend lent me the CD Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk by Emperor. The intro track, The Oath, has this big buildup of atmosphere using guitars, feedback, and evil reverb-laced vocals. Then at the tail end of the track, all that drops off, and it gives you about 50 seconds of mighty sounding synths and these epic war drums. And that is the first introduction to something that I would call Dungeon Synth that I had. Shortly after that, I discovered the band Summoning, and I fell in love with them. Being a fantasy geek growing up, and then a metalhead in my teens, Summoning really appealed to me. I loved the simple drum machine beats, the layers of synths, and the washed out guitars. Fast forward a few years, I started listening to more and more ambient and instrumental music. Somewhere along the line, I lost the ability to listen to music with vocals in it while I was reading. I used to be able to do it as a teenager, but not so much anymore. But it wasn't until maybe around 2015 or so where I really started diving deep into the genre and discovering more and more artists. A few years later, I decided to stop playing in bands. I sold a few guitars and amplifiers and bought myself a drum machine and a few synths. And then I started making my own music. I was making everything from industrial to synth pop, as well as some dungeon synth. Some of it I've released, lots more I've scrapped, and that pretty much brings us to here. I already had lots of audio equipment, and I've bought a few cameras to do some live streaming from my apartment earlier on in the pandemic. So I decided I wanted to start a channel to talk about this music that I find so captivating and interesting. Some of the things I intend to cover on this channel will be new Dungeon Synth and dark ambient releases, deep dives into essential, classic, or interesting albums related to the genre, and I'll talk about what I'm currently listening to, what I'm currently reading, and how those two things pair together. I also want to go into an in-depth history of Dungeon Synth, but those videos might take a while because I want to make sure I research them properly and do them just right. We'll also be looking at the multitude of subgenres that have come out of Dungeon Synth in the recent years, and with any luck, we will hopefully get a few interviews from creators, labels, and fans. So, with that, I want to welcome you all to the Castlecast. Please subscribe and hit the notification button to be alerted when I post new episodes. Until then, I wish you well and see you next time. Thanks so much.